Hi folks, hopefully just a quick video. Well, what just came to mind is, why is it for me that, for all these years I've been asking the questions and all that sort of stuff, why is that the case? If for others it wasn't the case, why is it the case for me? Well, one thing I think that was really in my favour massively is the fact that when I gave my life to God, I could honestly look back at my life and say, but there's nothing about that was worth living. Nothing at all. There's nothing that's worth keeping in that. Just nothing at all. That's nah. I'm going to give this completely to God because I don't want it. It ain't good. Only about a year before, I'd taken an overdose of paracetamol and had to have my stomach pumped. That would be about a year before. So when I gave my life to God, there was no mucking around. I was actually giving my life to God. God had been basically courting me gently for probably about 4 years, 4 to 5 years, even longer actually. I think since I was probably about 18. So I gave my life to God in 94. When was I 18? That's a good question. Well, I was 20 in 89. So you're looking at 87. So really 7 years, at least 7 years. There was a lot of things happen when I was 18 that, So, from that point, obviously, I wasn't interested in churchy. That wasn't something that interested me. And because of my life, the way my life had been, because I had, and this is the point, because I had faced rejection from my mother way pre-birth, upon her learning of conception that early, my life had always been, okay, not had a mum and dad, okay. So therefore, was I that bothered if people didn't want to be in my life? Not really. And people would say, that's because you're trying to get people to reject you like your mother did. No. I wasn't bothered because what I haven't had, I'm not going to miss. That was my understanding. What you haven't had, you don't miss. And so, a lot of people in church, they have this churchy family. I never had that. Well, because they have a churchy family, they have, in some occasions, or in some circumstances, people that can help them go on the right path, but they also have people that can take them down the wrong path. I had none of that. Not really. I had none of that at all. Now, in a way, that's a curse, but in a way, that's a blessing. You get both with that. But what was a blessing was that I was able to have my own relationship with God without too many people saying, oh, you shouldn't be thinking like that, or you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be thinking like that. I didn't have that. I had the Word. I had, at that point, I had cassette tapes. This is going back. Cassette tapes of Rick Godwin and some of his ministries, and later on people like Kenneth Copeland, and earlier Kenneth Copeland, not the latter stuff. And I had worship. I had some beautiful worship. As I say, there was that church in the centre of the High Street in Chatham, Kent, that did the worship every Wednesday lunchtime, and I went there every Wednesday lunchtime, and that was beautiful. And they were doing that for years, so that was just gorgeous going there. I had been in churches, but every time I've been in churches, I found there was that clickiness, there was that church politics, and all that stuff. None of it biblical. So And so I suppose to a certain degree, when God tells me something that isn't completely strictly as the church understands it, for me that's easier to understand. Because I've never been part of that. You know, so, yeah. So, as to why? Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with it. I really do. Well, I did a video recently saying I had to go through all of that to ask those questions. And I did. Yeah, to ask those questions, who are you and who am I? When faced with that scripture about loving the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and loving your neighbour as yourself. Yeah, that was an impossibility. Both were. Both were incredibly difficult. So, yeah, I talk about my relationship with God. My relationship with God was very, very much up and down, 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 up and down. Yeah, very much like Peter. Yeah, I could blow hot, then cold, hot, then cold, hot, then cold, hot, then cold. But again, that wasn't intentional. It wasn't because of the fact that I'd looked at scripture that talks about, you know, do not be lukewarm because I'll puke that out of my mouth. Yeah, Revelations. It was just the way I was and just the relationship with God that I had. Yeah, I'd rather have been hot all the time. Of course. Yeah, because why would you intentionally be cold? Yeah, so, yeah. But that's what it was. So that's why, you know, there were some glorious things done and some terrible things done in that 27 years. Yeah, because sometimes I went incredibly hot, sometimes incredibly cold. But also, as I say, because I was asking those questions, and I think that was the key thing, because I was asking the questions all the time, that when I then asked that question, or those questions, who are you and who am I, suddenly, yeah, all the answers started coming in. From asking those two questions, all the answers just started coming in. All the answers that I've been asking for years just started coming in. And, yeah. Had I been churchy, had I had that churchy sort of family, there's a very good possibility I would have not had any of that. Any of that at all. My life would have been completely different. But I don't think there's much of a chance at all that I'd be here, knowing what I know now. No. So, I mean, yeah, that's why people say, oh, your life must be terrible. No. I mean, beautiful in some ways, awful in others. Like my relationship with God, ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. Hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. But it's led me to where I am now, and where I am now is gorgeous. So, yeah, brilliant. So there you go. Yeah. Hopefully in some way that helps people to understand. Well, it came to my mind, so I thought I'd better do a video about it, so hopefully it helps in some way. Because that's the whole point. You know, God gives me understanding for me to share. Yeah, it's not just understanding for me, it's for me to share, so I'm sharing. So there you go. That's the thing, I'm sharing. So, yeah, have a fantastic week. God bless. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.